Welcome to part 2 of our review and analysis of the Rise of Skywalker. Remember, spoilers abound, so be warned. Let's dive right back into it. When we last left our friends, Kylo had nonchalantly received an offer from the surprisingly not dead Emperor Palpatine to kill Rey so Kylo could inherit the Final Order fleet and become the new Galactic Emperor. After a massive exposition dump by Poe, the gang decides to go to the desert world of Tatooine. Geonosis. Jakku. Arvala 7. Pisana. To pick up the incomplete trail that the failed old man Luke Skywalker unhelpfully left to track down a Sith wayfinder that will lead to the planet Exegol, where Palpatine has improbably constructed a few thousand ships underwater. The story resumes back in Bad Man Land, where Kylo's helmet is being reforged by Caesar from the last Planet of the Apes. Kylo and the Knights of Ren stand about watching the helmet be rebuilt, no doubt in a gesture symbolic of J.J. Abrams trying to piece back together the shards of the franchise after it was inexcusably shattered by Mr. Expectation Subverter. Shattered harder than Sauron shattered Narsil at the Siege of Barad-dûr, am I right? Kylo marches out with the Knights of Ren, and one of the stormtroopers even comments, Knights of Ren. Do you remember the Knights of Ren? Likely not. They were in a flashback scene in episode 7. It's really interesting that the audience needs to be reminded of who they are. Maybe there's a role for them at some point, but that ship has long since sailed. Who are they? Where are they from? Spoiler alert, it's never explained. And they don't really do anything unique the entire film. Actually, I take that back. They almost do their job once, and then they die. That's what happens. They all die. So yeah. Kylo has a nice board meeting. I really wanted there to be a pitcher of water and some muffins on the table, but no, it's just Julio's head. They just throw Julio's head on the table, so he's dead now. Julio. Kylo declares that there's a spy in their midst, and frankly, no one, including the audience, seems to care. But more importantly, Kylo's got a plan to make the First Order into a true empire. So now the Empire, which became the First Order, joins the Final Order to become the Empire. Kylo singles out General Cux. Oh, that's a typo. Kylo singles out General Cux as being uncomfortable with his appearance, and Cux commends Kylo on reforging his helmet. Then General Pride takes a shot at poor Cux as well for his failure with Starkiller Base. Donal, my boy, what have they done to you? Just do yourself a favor and watch Ex Machina if you already haven't. Just watch it. Seeing all these actors try to perform with this material is like watching a Ferrari try to race with a gas tank full of instant pudding. Oh, she trying. She just ain't going nowhere. Remember when this guy was supposed to be scary, like the Grand Moff Tarkin of the sequel trilogy? Well, now he's just consistently emasculated on screen for laughs. Maybe trying to cram so much material and retcons into this movie left no room for real conflict or plausible adversaries. When I saw the trailer for Force Awakens, the First Order looked pretty intimidating. Kylo looked menacing, and even this First Order pilot looked pretty hard. Imagine a movie where the adversary was a ruthless, effective fighting machine full of indoctrinated elite soldiers, perhaps even some Force sensitives. What if the First Order was terrifying? I mean, these guys would never miss, and a single misstep by the Resistance would mean certain failure and a painful death. That would certainly set the stakes for some engaging drama. But no. Instead, you get a clown car full of incompetent narcissists who somehow lucked into possession of deadly equipment, which they barely know how to use. Sounds like the insurmountable stakes that would keep me invested. I wonder what the good guys will have to sacrifice in order to win. I bet it's more than nothing. Back in the conference room, there's a throwaway line about how the First Order needs to start harvesting more of the galaxy's children. Remember that one for later because it will become immensely problematic. Then Kylo pins someone to the ceiling and says he's going hunting for the Scavenger, meaning Rey. Don't you think it's a bit odd to still be calling her that? I mean, I guess it's pejorative, but kind of been a while since she's been in the materials reclamation business. Just not sure if that's accurate anymore. But the last time she was a scavenger was at the beginning of The Force Awakens. So one might think that the writers had cast aside the entire aborted narrative that was The Last Jedi and tried to make a direct sequel to Episode 7, one might think. The gang finally arrive on Pisana and delightfully find that the Aki Aki Festival of the Ancestors, a once every 42-year event, is occurring in the very place they need to be. Finn comments, well, that's lucky. And yes, Finn, yes, it is lucky. In fact, the entire narrative is driven by luck, coincidence, and convenience of writing. Indeed, the writing is so shitty that the characters themselves are frequently incredulous. Poe says there's always random First Order patrols in crowds like these, so they need to keep their heads down. Guess it's kind of like security at Coachella, making sure all the MDMA-fueled millennials don't get out of control. Rey meets a random squid person child who gives her a bead necklace. 3PO says that the little girl is conveniently asking for Rey's family name, and Rey, ashamed, says that she doesn't have one. Too bad there isn't a random Imperial officer there to give her a last name, otherwise it would be the Rise of Solo. Which, if that were a thing, you'd think half the galaxy would have the last name Solo. But different movie. I wonder if this whole last name thing will come up again. Say as the finale of the film and therefore the culmination of the 9-movie Skywalker Saga? If I were writing this film, which is supposed to be the climax of the roughly 20 hours of screen time and 42 years of cinematic history that is Star Wars episodes 1 through 9, and I told you that the last moment, the absolute most important take-home point from the entire damn thing, would be a punchline set up by a random character interaction about 30 minutes into the last movie, you might accuse me of poor storytelling. Let's all pray to whatever merciful deity exists that this does not turn out to be the case, because no loving God would allow such a thing to happen. Back at the festival on Pisana, Kylo initiates a force call with Rey. This is honestly a great shot in the movie. The musical cue, as well as the smash cut to Kylo dressed in all black, standing in the austere white of his quarters on the Star Destroyer, is one of the few great moments that the movie accomplishes.
Palpatine wants you dead.
Rey asks Kylo if he's serving another master, and Kylo says he has other plans. They banter a bit, and then Kylo says,
"Such pain in you, such anger. I don't want to have to kill you. I'm going to find you, and I'm going to turn you to the dark side. When I offer you my hand again, you'll take it."
Then Kylo snatches the squid person child's necklace off Rey. Curious that Kylo is so adamant about turning Rey to the dark side. Maybe all this bluster about scavenger is actually just reaction formation and Kylo's sweet on the girl after all. Regardless, it's clear that he's bucked his original mandate from Palpatine, which was to kill Rey in order to receive the Final Order fleet. And the narrative serves the double purpose of flimsily setting up Rey's inner conflict and a potential flirt with the dark side. The First Order analyzes the necklace and instantly finds out where Rey is. Kylo orders a division be sent and also to alert the local troops. Sounds like a lot. I bet in moments there'll be thousands of First Order troops swarming Pisana. But instead, a single stormtrooper pops out of the crowd and tells the gang, "Hold it right there." This unlucky son of a bitch then gets shot directly in the eye with an arrow. The gang trustingly follows the stormtrooper's murderer to a treaded vehicle. This masked man says that Leia sent him a transmission. Sounds legit. He then bangs on the window slit of the driver's door and says something in an alien language. The driver responds, "Okay." I like that guy. Gotta pick a favorite now that Julio's gone. Julio. Poe asks how the mystery man found them, which probably should have been the first question he asked before following a witness murderer into a confined space. Then we reveal old Billy D. Wookiees stand out in the crowd. Having rediscovered the joys of killing, Lando and Chewie share a heartfelt embrace. "This is General Lando Calrissian," 3PO says, providing exposition to any millennials who might have accidentally stumbled into this film prior to seeing any real Star Wars movies. They talk about the Wayfinder and how Luke came to Pisana to find one. Lando laughs. "I know, I was with him." Lando seems to laugh a lot. In fact, most of his lines are delivered with laughter, even at very inappropriate moments. He tells the gang that he and Luke were tailing an old Jedi hunter, Ochi of Bastoon, who had a clue about the whereabouts of a Wayfinder. Jedi hunter. Sounds interesting. Bet we'll get more on that, as well as the fall of Luke's new Jedi temple and the rise of the First Order.
Borgullet will know the truth.
Luke and Lando followed the ship across the galaxy to Pisana, but when they searched it, it was abandoned with no clue. How long has Lando been there? Luke was already a legend in The Force Awakens, and that was years ago. So Lando came to Pisana, failed his mission, and just decided to stay there indefinitely? Even though he was still in contact with Leia and could have been a huge asset to the Resistance Rebellion thing? It seems as though our original trilogy characters are really big on giving up. Han just went back to being a smuggler after being a general and war hero in the Rebellion. Imagine if a retired US general started running weed across the border in an old plane after he was done being a member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Luke infamously, exiled himself to Octo.
Get off my lawn.
And now Lando's been hanging out in Pisana for unknown reasons. The gang hears TIE fighters, and Lando's got a bad feeling, so everyone has to go. Rey tries to recruit Lando into the Resistance, but Lando says, "My flying days are long gone." Bet that's not foreshadowing anything. "Give Leia my love." Rey says Lando should give it to her himself. Yeah, I bet he would give it to her himself, that old scoundrel. Outside, Poe hotwires a speeder, hinting at a sordid past, and Finn is surprised. Guess no one's really gotten to know each other over the past several years. God forbid Poe did shady stuff before, because no other in-universe hero has a criminal record. What follows is a sequence you can watch on YouTube, since, interestingly, it was posted in advance of the film's premiere. Finn, Poe, Rey, and Chewie flee the First Order, who pursues on these curiously ineffective snowmobile-looking vehicles. This is where we get the now infamous "They Fly Now" sequence.
They I fly now!
Ah, here we go. BB-8 does something helpful and Rey triumphantly declares, never underestimate a droid. Looks like Leia was right. Glad that wasn't at all shoehorned in to make an otherwise orphaned video clip usable. As they pass into a large plane, Rey recognizes Ochi's ship. Hold up, so Lando is hanging out literally 5 minutes from Ochi's ship where he and Luke had failed to discover a clue about the Wayfinder. They checked out the ship and thought, well, that looks like a dead end. Luke went to Octo and Lando decided to stay literally right there and live in the back of a truck? Alright, whatever. One random jet trooper comes out of nowhere, and despite the protracted battle in which none of them could hit shit, this guy is Jesse fucking James and manages to blow up both of the good guys' speeders with consecutive shots. The gang managed to kill Jetpack Jesse, but find they were ejected into quicksand. Oh no, what luck! You know, I saw an old rerun of The Lone Ranger once when I was a kid, where he gets trapped in quicksand. That messed me up pretty good. Believe me, I wouldn't walk alone on a beach for years afterwards. So everyone's getting sucked down into the quicksand, and Finn tells Rey that there's something he never told her. But before he can get it out, they all go under. And that's it. They're all dead. That's the end of the Skywalker Saga. Jesus, I wish. Fuck me, we're barely a third of the way through the movie. Cut back to the Rebel base and we get more wonderfully appropriate Leia dialogue. Some guy says, General, we're getting reports of a raid at the Festival of the Ancestors. Everyone seems to know what this festival is except for the people that were sent on a mission there. Maybe Lando told them since he's still in contact with Leia. After all, he seems like a master of withholding vital information as he didn't think it was relevant to share anything about Ochi or the Wayfinder until people literally showed up at his back door. Leia says, this mission is everything. We cannot fail. This carries all the weight of an armchair quarterback talking about the playoffs. Random guy says the Falcon isn't responding, and Rose gets into his shit about it. Do you have to say it that way? Then random guy walks it back. Yes, ma'am, this is terrific. You're not going to believe how well this is going to turn out. This is great. This line was probably taken directly from a transcript of whoever wrote this abomination trying to sell it to the board at Lucasfilm. Or maybe a desperate attempt to try to convince the audience that they're enjoying themselves. Cut back to an underground cave on Pisana where everyone conveniently falls out of the ceiling unharmed into contiguous passages where they easily reunite with each other. What luck! Think of the odds that everyone got ejected into quicksand directly over a communicating branch of this cave system. A meter to the right or left and they would have easily suffocated. How the hell does this quicksand work anyhow? You can sink through it, but somehow it's suspended neatly over the ceiling of these caves without flowing into it? The gang explores the cave. Rey wants to know what Finn was going to say, and Finn says he'll tell her later. Poe is upset by all this secret keeping, and in turn, Finn interrogates him on how he knew how to do all this shifty stuff, like hotwiring a speeder. Shocking, I know, that someone who self-identifies as either rebel or resistance fighter would know how to do things which are unconventional or purely illegal. After this, they come across a speeder which somehow ended up in the cave. Maybe it too sunk in the quicksand and fell through the ceiling. 3PO comments on the hood ornament being a Sith hex charm. Jesus Christ, a Sith hex charm? Is this the make and model of the damn thing? It literally has a hood ornament.
Man, you do a resto mod on a 67 Sith, that would go for at least 100,000 credits at auction.
Just imagine being an auto worker punching the clock at a Sith speeder plant. Or maybe the Sith don't make speeders, and Ochi just pasted a bunch of Sith decals on it, making him the equivalent of some vape-addicted 20-year-old racing in his shitty modded-out Honda Civic.
Hey, built not bought, bro.
Ochi's bones are conveniently laying next to the speeder along with a Klingon mek'leth. Rey says that horrible things have happened with the dagger. Wonder if this has personal significance for her. How small does this universe have to be that all critical events revolve around a dozen people and half as many objects? 3PO reads the dagger. The location of the Wayfinder has been inscribed upon this dagger. It's the clue that Master Luke was looking for. With these words, 3PO seals his fate, for the information on the dagger instantly becomes more valuable than his disposable robot life. You see, the inscription on the dagger is written in the language of the ancient Sith, of which 3PO's programming forbids translation, before he's interrupted by the ultimately meaningless appearance of a monstrous worm. He begins to explain that the restriction began with laws implemented by the Senate of the Old Republic. So when Anakin was a little slave boy building C-3PO on Tatooine, which was specifically described as so remote as to be outside the jurisdiction of the Senate, he was especially careful to make sure that 3PO's programming was in compliance with Republic laws regarding translations of forbidden languages. Look at that little rule follower. Bet he'd never have so much as a parking ticket. Back in the cave, the serpent thing is rearing up. Then Poe wants to shoot it. Finn tells him to wait. Rey approaches the worm thing and discovers that it is an injury. In a miraculous feat, she puts her hands on the worm and heals the creature's wounds. Everyone is shocked, and the snake thing slithers away, also revealing the exit to the cave. What luck! I mean, what the hell kind of cave is this anyways? Rey explains, I just transferred a bit of life, force energy from me to him, and tells BB-8 you would have done the same. It's all just so simple. I hate to be that guy, but this breaks the entire saga. If you really want to get into it, which if you've stuck with me this far, I assume you do. And hey, if you've stuck with me this far, why don't you give me a like, share, and subscribe while you're at it, eh? But Star Wars as a whole is really about Anakin, with episodes 1 through 3 being his meteoric rise to previously unknown power and subsequent fall into darkness, while episodes 4 through 6 tell the story of his redemption at the hands of his son. The only other character whose arc spanned episodes 1 through 6 was Palpatine, but certainly the Skywalker Saga wouldn't revolve around that individual or his previously unmentioned family.
A surprise, to be sure, but a welcome one.
The entire motive for Anakin's fall to darkness was his premonition of Padme's death and his inability to stop it, just as he couldn't prevent the death of his mother before. The fall of the entire Republic, the story for 6 Star Wars movies, and the setup for the sequel trilogy, in fact, stemmed from Anakin's inability to do the very thing that Rey performed so nonchalantly on a fucking worm. And then she tells BB-8, a droid, you would have done the same, as if it's just this thing that everyone can do. God, we haven't even gotten to the dumb part yet. Oh, I hate this. I hate this so much. You got this. Next, we get some bad guy music and a big pan around shot of the Knights of Ren standing on a mesa instead of doing anything, because why would they be doing anything? In a rare instance of logic, our heroes conclude that they can't return to the Falcon because the First Order's already arrived, so instead they board Ochi's ship. Rey has a feeling or something and wanders off into the desert as Poe tries to fire up the old ship's engines. Chewie wanders out behind some rocks to take a leak, and the Knights of Ren just happen to be there and capture him. Shockingly, they don't think to peek around the corner where they would have found Ochi's ship along with Poe and Finn only feet away. Nope, they set out to take a prisoner and they complete their mission to the exact minimum. Hey, Trudgeon, it's pretty unlikely that this one guy was out here by himself. Maybe we should poke around and see if we can find his friends. After all, we're on absolutely no time constraint, and our entire army is coming to back us up any minute.
Whoa, overachiever here. Sounds like you want to Kylo's d. He said capture whoever we found. We found this guy. Let's get the hell out of here.
Out in the desert, Rey wanders out to meet Kylo Ren, who screams towards her in his TIE silencer. I don't know how many gears this thing has, but he keeps throttling up. Kylo races ever faster towards Rey, who ignites her lightsaber and starts running away from Kylo's ship. Not sure how fast a TIE fighter goes. My guess is very. But try out running even a bicycle, and you'll quickly get an idea of how a human on foot is not going to make an appreciable change to the relative velocity of an incoming fighter. But Rey performs her little flippity-doo and chops off one of the wings of Kylo's fighter, which then spins across the desert floor at 1,000,000 miles an hour before exploding into a massive fireball. What was his plan here? It was almost guaranteed that he was going to die. Is that actually what he intended to happen? I mean, Jesus, the G-force alone from that spin would have killed him. But then he's fine. Rey sees the transport that Chewie's supposed to be on and just holds out her hand and starts pulling it back, because that's a power that anyone before her even remotely had. I mean, hell, Yoda had to concentrate just to lift an X-Wing out of a pond. But I guess that's just not interesting anymore. So, Kylo, even though he should have been incinerated in the witnessed explosion of his ship, just pops out of the wreckage and holds out his hand too to push it away? This weird tug of war ensues where Rey is pulling and I guess Kylo is pushing? Or maybe pulling it towards him? And Rey gets angry and accidentally shoots Force lightning.
Oh god, I hate this so much.
She accidentally uses Force lightning. I should probably spend more time here, but I just really want this to be over. Throughout the original trilogy, the Emperor was built up to be the ultimate bad guy. He wasn't even introduced in person until Return of the Jedi, and even then you only see him walk around or sit for most of it. Then, at the very end, you see him use his ultimate ability to demonstrate how fundamentally powerful and evil he was. What's that ability? Force lightning! This was a rare and devious talent reserved for the baddest of the bad, the most powerful Sith shown on screen. And now Rey accidentally stumbles upon it? The writers of the sequel trilogy really don't understand what it was about in the end. The Force is now a superpower given at random. Gone are the days when it took years or even a lifetime to master the Force. The burden is now learning to control what is an otherwise unearned and randomly bestowed ability, the same as Captain Marvel or Spider-Man. Rey's Force lightning blows up the transport, and the audience is tempted to believe that Chewie and the Knights of Ren were summarily executed off-screen. Rey yells, Chewie! And everyone is sad. bad. Poe evacuates Rey and the others just as First Order reinforcements arrive, because apparently Kylo and the Knights of Ren got there that much before the local troops and division that Kylo ordered. And off they go in Ochi's ship, which somehow manages to outrun the First Order fighters, despite having sat unused for years or even decades, and having been only moments ago been jury-rigged into operation by Poe. This was a tough one, guys, but we got through it. Good thing we only have 2/3 of the movie to go. Will the gang get the Wayfinder? Will Rey slip to the dark side? Is Chewie really dead? Is he? We'll find out in our next episode. The answer is no, he's not dead. He's fine. He's just resting. He'll be okay. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Any help you can give us in growing this channel would be greatly appreciated.